Welcome to Equality Education, a show about inclusive teaching, supportive parenting, and a kinder future. Hello everyone, how you doing? I hope you are great. Thank you for being here today. So today on the show, I have a guest for you who is not just a guest, he's actually my friend. And I'm so thrilled that he is the first guest ever on my brand new podcast. Yes, today I have got for you the one and only Andrew Moffat, MBE, who is the assistant head teacher at Parkfield Community School in Birmingham. Now, if you don't know who Andrew is, he is the author of several books, including No Outsiders, Everyone Different, Everyone Welcome, and he is the creator of the No Outsiders programme, which is an approach to teaching primary school aged children about diversity and tolerance. Now, in 2019, he was shortlisted for the Global Teacher Prize for his work with No Outsiders. Yet, at the same time, he had to face school gate protests from community members who disagreed with the inclusion of LGBT plus children's books in his programme. So I caught up with Andrew, over Zoom, of course, and here is what he had to say about equality education. Hello, Andrew. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Olly. Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Thanks for coming. How you doing?
Yeah, it's good. I'm good. Obviously it's strange times, but, you've got to be positive, you've got to be full of hope. And it's Eurovision this week. So obviously it's quite a difficult week for me and for my fellow Eurovision fans, but we're getting through it.
Exactly. If ever there's a week to be positive, it's this week.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, I'm super thrilled that you're here today. And actually, Andrew, you're my first guest ever of my new podcast. How do you feel?
Oh, hooray.
Okay, so I've got a few questions for you today. But what I want to start off with is a little icebreaker, a little fun one. So can you tell me and the listeners a happy memory from your childhood?
Yes. So I can think of being 8 years old and I had just discovered the Eurovision Song Contest. And in 1982, the winner was Germany with a song called A Little Piece by Nicole. And I just learned to play the guitar and my dad helped me to work out how to play this song, A Little Piece by Nicole. And there was a talent competition at school and I entered it. I put on a skirt and a floppy hat and I sang A Little Piece by Nicole in front of the school and I won. And it was absolutely wonderful. I can remember it vividly because it was just such a fantastic, for me, experience because primary school was quite difficult for me. I didn't have very many friends, to be honest with you. I was a bit of an outsider, didn't fit in with the boys. But, to win this competition and to wear a dress, frankly, and to win this competition and be popular was a really good memory. So, yes, I would say that.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely adorable. I can just imagine you in a little skirt. And actually, that's really good because that kind of leads to my next question. You touched on it a little bit there. So you're obviously from No Outsiders fame. That's the name of your educational program and now your charity, because it's a charity now, isn't it?
It is.
So what I want to ask you, was there ever a time as a child when you felt like an outsider? I
definitely felt like an outsider as a little boy. I didn't know that I was gay, but I knew I was different. I was definitely different to the other boys. They were, I can remember there was a game called British Bulldog. I don't know if it's still in the store. Don't play it in my school. I'm a teacher. I don't play in my school. But in the 70s and 80s in my school, all the boys played that. And basically you stood at either end of the playground, then you charged in and basically beat each other up. Like wrestled to the floor and stuff. And that's just the game everyone played every lunchtime, every playtime. I didn't want to play that. I really, but there was no one else like me in primary school. No other boys like me. So I've definitely felt like an outsider at primary school. It was a really hard time. So my aim really is to make sure that no child feels like an outsider for any reason. It doesn't have to be because of reasons that I felt. There are lots of reasons why children feel like they are left out or they don't belong. And we need all children to know that they do belong.
Exactly. And that's interesting what you said, because that's exactly the same thing that I always say when I talk about my childhood, that I didn't know I was gay, but I definitely knew I was different. And yes. I think that is definitely the case for the majority, maybe, of LGBT plus people. And I wonder if that's, if that's a feeling that people of other identities feel as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. And as a teacher, I want to be, I don't want any child to go through what I went through as a child. I mean, there is not one LGBT plus person that I know of my age that wasn't bullied in school. And literally everyone, that you meet, my friends, when we talk about it, everyone has the same experience at school, which was that it was really difficult and there was bullying but so now as a teacher, I can stop that. I can make sure that no child, and I know that it does happen today. If you look at Stonewall reports, absolutely, it is still happening. But, so as teachers, we can do everything that we can to create a culture in school so that doesn't happen. I don't want children to go through what I went through.
Exactly. And that's definitely the same for me as well. And what I think is it's the trauma of, for me, it wasn't, I was lucky and I wasn't bullied throughout my school life, but I did have this sense of shame and humiliation, and I had to put on this filter and not be myself for such a long time. And I think I remember being 4 years old and making choices that would not give away who I really was. And I think for a 4, 5, 6-year-old to have to do that, like that's emotionally traumatic and something which will stay with you for the rest of your life. So I completely am on the same page as you, as in the sense that I want children to be who they are from the word go and not feel that they ever have to cover anything up. What are some of your favourite resources that you like to use?
So I use picture books. I realised about 15 years ago that picture books were the way forward. Mm-hmm. It makes it accessible for teachers and for children as well. But also it means that if you're discussing difficult topics or challenging topics, you can talk about the characters in the books and not really talk about yourself. So even though you are talking about yourself, you can project it and talk about the character in the book. And you can have some really good teaching points and really good experiences talking about characters. Then afterwards relate it to, possibly if it's safe to, relate it to our own experience, but you don't have to kind of talk about the characters, So I would say the first book that I really was sort of inspired by was a book called This Is Our House by Michael Rosen, and it's a little book about a boy that says to children, "You can't play in my house; it's all for me." And he turns children away, and he says, You can't play in my house because you're a girl. This house is not for girls. You can't play because it's not for children who wear glasses. You can't play because it's not for children who like rabbits. And he turns children away all the time. And then George goes to the toilet and everyone jumps into his house. And George comes back and he's got red hair. So what do the children say to George? They say, "You've got red hair. You can't come in our house." And it's the first time that he realizes, what discrimination feels like, and his own behaviour is sort of mirrored back to him. So he changes his mind, and can do so much with that book. And so I really sort of based a lot of my work on that kind of that kind of story. And then I found Prince Henry, this book that you wrote, and I really liked that book because a big thing for me about how you teach about LGBT equality in schools, I think the best way to teach about LGBT equality is actually not to mention LGBT equality, and to talk about equality as a whole, in which you make sure LGBT is included, but it's not the focus. The focus is the quality as a whole. And I loved Prince Henry because I don't think you mentioned the word gay in the story. Do you mention the word gay in the book?
No, not in the story at all.
Is the word gay? It's not in the story, is it?
No. I
which is really significant.
I know we sometimes clash because I actually market it online as like a gay fairy tale romance, yes. But I think that's because I want to bring people in, but I understand where you're like, no, don't call it a gay fairy tale romance. It's just a fairy tale. And I totally agree with you.
Yes. Yeah. Because what's really clever about that book is that, is it Thomas is the servant? Who's just, it's Henry, isn't it? Yeah. Henry is gay. But that's never an issue. That's never an issue. That's the way it should be. The school is actually it's about class, really. It's about marrying someone who is poor. You know, kind of rich person marry a poor person. You know, the fact that he's gay is there, but it's not really mentioned. There's a lovely bit in the middle where the king brings lots of suitors to possible partners for Henry, and there's women and men in there. There's also someone in a wheelchair as well. I can picture the scene, you know. So the dad is fine about his son. It's not a question about, yes, you could marry a prince, could marry a princess, you know. It's not a problem. It's only when he realises that Thomas is poor that there's a problem. So that's a really, really useful book, a really clever book for schools, because it teaches children, but, well, you know, that's just another way of being different.
So obviously, last year you were in a difficult situation, but thankfully you seem to have come through that, you know, stronger. I think you're amazing now. And what I'd like to ask you is, what advice would you give to any teachers or head teachers who would like their school or classes to be LGBT plus inclusive, but who are perhaps a bit scared of what might happen?
Well, there were protests last year, and it was very difficult. But the reason why we came through is because most people are supportive of this work. You know, the vast majority of people living in the UK today actually just want children to grow up and to know that there are different people out there, and that's okay. You know, and the whole point of living in the UK is that you can be different and you can get along with other people who are different. You know, so that's why, you know, the protest didn't stop this work in schools, in my school or in other schools. In terms of messages to head teachers, I would say that the answer is to focus on your equality ethos. It's not really just about being LGBT plus inclusive. You know, it's the same thing about, you know, not having a discussion about being disability inclusive or about being inclusive of different faiths or inclusive, you know, it's about being inclusive of everyone. And within that, we can't ignore LGBT, but we also shouldn't be a focus, you know, any more than, you know, race should be or gender should be. It's just a focus on equality and making sure that everyone is welcome. And that's why I like No Outsiders, because it's about everyone. It's not just, it uses the Equality Act and the protected characteristics. And so it talks about teaching children that everyone is welcome. And there's not one difference that is more important than anyone else, but also there's not a difference that is less important than anyone else. They're all on a sort of on an equal, you know, level playing field, or they should be, you know, and that's the aim for primary schools. You know, in our school, you can have black skin or brown skin or white skin. You can be a boy or a girl, or you can have different gender, or you can be gay or lesbian or trans, or you can have disabilities, or come from a different country or a different language. You know, everyone is equal in our school. No one gets treated differently. So I would say to head teachers or to teachers is just to explore your quality ethos and have confidence that, you know, this is the way forward. You know, we're not going back to the 80s as schools. You know, we know how this is going to end. It's going to end with all schools doing this work. We have to get through this difficult bit at the moment, that's all.
What is your opinion on the government guidance which came out with regards to relationship education for primary schools? Well,
I think it's great that the government is asking schools to make sure that they reference different families. And that's really needed. I'd like to go further, really, because there are lines in there about schools can do primary schools can do LGBT work or, you know, lessons if they feel it's age appropriate. I find that phrase a sort of don't really like that phrase, because it suggests that there is something that's not age appropriate about teaching children about different families. You know, and you know, we wouldn't say schools can teach about disability if they feel it's age appropriate. You know, so why is it okay to say that LGBT stuff, you know, might be not age appropriate? You see also here, this is why it's really important not to have LGBT lessons. You know, in No Outsiders, there are no LGBT lessons in the same way as there are no race lessons or disability lessons or gender lessons. There are lessons about equality and lessons about difference and lessons about, you know, getting along. And within those lessons, we talk about ways that we're different. And sometimes, yes, you mention LGBT or disability or race. Sometimes we don't, but it's just all about recognizing ways that we are different and then accepting those ways. So, even to have a separate section in the guidance about LGBT lessons, you could argue is homophobic, actually, because why is it separate? Why is it separate? There's not a separate bit about disability. There's not a separate bit about race, so why separate it out? So I'm worried that some schools may feel that they shouldn't do this work because they feel it's not age appropriate. But the message is, it is absolutely age appropriate for a 3-year-old to know that their two mummies are okay. That's what we're talking about here. If a 3-year-old girl has got two daddies, then it's age appropriate for her to know that her family is normal and it's just another family. And that's what we're talking about here. So there really shouldn't be any debate about this. It's just teaching children that there are different families out there, and that's all right.
What is your favourite part about your job and teaching?
Well, it's definitely the reaction from the children. I can remember a few years ago having I can remember a day just feeling cross. You feel grumpy. I can't remember what I was feeling grumpy about. And I remember doing an assembly, and just within 3 or 4 minutes, just being absolutely cheered up because of the reaction from the children. And it's great to my favourite part of the day is always standing on the playground at the start of the day as people come in saying, "Morning, Mr. Moffat, morning." I go, "Morning, morning," saying hello to the parents, just smiling. We are social beings, aren't we? And it's wonderful. I would really miss that if I wasn't in a school, that contact and those relationships. So it's all about, the relationships that you build and seeing children progress in their learning and their understanding and their development. I'd say it's an honour to be a teacher, and to have to work with a child from age 4 to age 11, so to really see those children, grow and move through school. I was at Parkfield School from 2014 till Christmas last year. So what's that? 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. So I saw children in year 1 right up to year 6, so it's a real honour to be part of that learning and that journey.
Yeah. And I don't think teachers are given enough credit for how influential they are and how much impact they have on bringing up children in our society. They are the key workers, especially at the moment with our current situation. I see them all doing virtual lessons, and I'm sure you're having to do things like that at the moment.
Well, yes, I've done lots of lessons, sort of activities online, done some assemblies as well. It's all about just keeping that relationship going, isn't it? We're in a time of crisis, aren't we? But we've got to be solution focused. We've got to find a way forward through this. And what's been good about this, the one good thing to come out of this, I think, is the community cohesion that has come out of this coronavirus. As a teacher, I've never seen so much work go online and so much training and, people sharing resources. Just been brilliant, I've been asking authors to read their stories online so I can make activities out of them. And you did one, yourself, and everyone says yes, people want to help. But even down to, I did an assembly picture about the NHS clapping, because I think even that's interesting, because, when people clap the NHS, they're clapping people who are different. No one's saying, well, I'm clapping the white nurses or I'm clapping the black nurses or, if I'm Muslim, I'm clapping the Muslim nurses. No one's saying that, obviously. People are clapping nurses who are all different. You go into a hospital, there's lots of nurses and doctors from different nationalities and different religions, and everyone is being celebrated and being clapped because that's what the UK is like. And, so we can build on this when we go back to school, and hopefully it will really help to reduce hate, really. In fact, reducing hate. But, we need to remember these times, people coming together all down your street, people coming together and clapping outside and waving to each other, people that might not have talked before, people of different race, different religion, different sexuality, different families coming together. That's what we need to be talking about and focusing on in schools when we go back.
So let's have some fun now, because it would have been Eurovision this weekend, and you're next to me the biggest Eurovision fan I know. I mean, you've taught me equally about Eurovision as you have education.
Well, yes. Well, Eurovision is incredibly important. I would say Eurovision inspired me in all of my work because, actually, quite seriously, it has inspired me because what is Eurovision about? It's about people of different nationality coming together and finding common ground. Different languages, different cultures, different race, but they're coming together and enjoying their time together.
So who would have won Eurovision this weekend? Who do you think would have won, and who was you rooting for? And I know who you would have been rooting for.
Do you?
That would have been San Marino. Because you love the quirky ones.
I do love the quirky ones. I think I would have loved Iceland to have won. Yeah. Because Iceland was very
that was the
first
win.
First of all, they've never won it before, so I'd like them to win. I'd like to go to Iceland next year, if they win. But also because it's a very fun song. You had a great sort of dance routine going on. It was very, very funny. It was very quirky, and also it was a nice one because it was about the song is about a dad talking to his baby boy. Was. And it's about, will you like me? And the things that you don't know yet. And I'll be there for you. It's a lovely, lovely message. So Iceland was one of the favourites.
Andrew, what would you say to a younger you?
I would just say, look, it sounds so corny, but it's absolutely the case. Just keep being you. You don't have to change. It's all, you'll be okay. You see, when I was little, when I realised that I was gay, probably around sort of 10, 11, I never imagined having a boyfriend, never imagined getting married, never imagined, actually, do you know what? I never imagined being happy, actually, which is very sad for a little child, but I never imagined I'd be happy because I just imagined that I would just have this life where I'd be on my own and, because there were no role models out there. I didn't know of any gay people, apart from a couple of pop stars, but they were so unreachable and untouchable. So I would just say, look, it's okay. Don't worry. It's going to be all right. You're going to find love. You're going to be happy. Just keep going. It's going to get better. There's that whole line, isn't it? It's going to get better, but it absolutely does, And, I think that, for children these days, you need to look around and just see the diversity that is out there and see the different people, and you can change as well. You don't have to, you're not on a fixed path, people change, don't worry. Just keep being yourself. It's all right.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful. And thank you for being here and being my first guest today. Like, I'm literally thrilled that you're number one. As soon as I decided that I was going to do a podcast, I was like, I have to get Andrew Moffat. So thank you so much. And
it's my pleasure.
I look forward to working with you in the future.
Excellent. And thank you for your work as well, Olly. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Anytime. Take care. Lots of love.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. And that was the awesome Andrew Moffat. Wasn't that cool? I tell you what, I am so grateful to have him as a friend and a guide, because Andrew has been so supportive and he has been instrumental to my understanding of equality education. So thank you, Andrew, and all the best. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you found this episode interesting. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you are using. And if you're listening via Apple Podcasts, then please give me a little review. That would be great. Thanks. And if you'd like to support this podcast and my work with Pop and Olly, then please check out popandolly.com/donate. Amazing. Once again, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.